Okay, welcome back to another episode of The Millennial Entrepreneur. My name's Sina and I love following the journeys of other young entrepreneurs. And in this episode, I spoke with the two founders, that's right, two people, the two founders, Danielle and Julie, of a brand new dating app, Fourplay. It's a new dating app focused on double dates. In this episode, we covered some really great topics, such as how they came up with the idea of building a double dating app from their own personal journey and experience, and how they also managed to build an app with no experience in tech whatsoever or startups themselves, being healthcare professionals. And also the journey of the app now growing massively across multiple continents and what is next for them. It was a great, insight and a great sort of conversation. We've never had a dating app on the podcast before. So yeah, it's just something a bit different that I really enjoyed. And so that brings me to this week's shout out. So in case you don't know, every week I'm doing a shout out to someone who's left a written review on Apple Podcasts as a way of saying thank you. I don't think I did one last week, I forgot, but we're back again this week, so we're doing them. And so this week is going to one that was actually left in 2020 by Annie, who says, really insightful podcast, especially for those wanting to start a business. I am especially enjoying the food-related podcast as this is the area I would like to venture into. The podcast provides great information you wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. Thank you so much, Annie, for that comment. It's really nice to hear that you enjoy the food-related podcasts. I've had quite a few of them actually in recent times, so I think more of them are coming into the future. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. And in case you don't follow the Instagram, all of you, that's where you can basically keep up to date with any new episodes that come up, along with any sort of previews, all that good stuff, so you can be kept in the loop of any new podcasts that come up. So yeah, that's all it is from me. Let's get on with the episode. Okay, hey, Danielle, Julie, how are you doing?
We are good. Thank you so much for having us on your podcast.
No, it's my absolute pleasure, and thank you for reaching out to come on. Like, it's a real pleasure for me to have you guys on, because we were talking about this before we hit record, but I've never had a dating app on the podcast before. Like, I always get surprised because I always think that I've covered everything, and then someone reaches out to me with something that I've never even, I don't know, like a dating app isn't something that's like, I guess the first thing that you ever discover, but it's like, didn't really expect it. So it's good to have you on.
Well, I've always wanted to be someone's first, so thank you.
And I love talking about foreplay, so.
Yeah, well, I guess you guys can just take the lead from now. Like, go ahead. Talk about what is Fourplay for people who don't know.
So Fourplay is a double dating app, and it was created by me, Danielle, and my best friend, Julie. And we made this app where you can team up with your other single friends, and you can create a shared dating profile and then swipe through other teams of singles and go on double dates. It's a safer and more fun, less serious way of dating.
Using dating apps previously, not at the moment, but like before, I guess like this sort of feature is always sort of individual. And I guess, yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't been built in, because double dating is, I mean, it's been around for ages. I don't know why, I guess, it hasn't been cracked. And I guess for you guys, you were like the first ones that discovered that it wasn't really working. It was very individual focused. So is that how you got the idea?
I mean, to be totally transparent, we thought we created this idea.
Yeah, we thought we did.
When we launched the app, we were like, how has nobody thought of this? But then the more research that we did, there have been other double dating apps, but they didn't succeed. They had a closed shop. So we're not entirely sure why, because so far, so good for us.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten a lot of really great feedback. And our users really do love the whole experience. But you're right. The way the dating apps are now, it's very individualized. I know some of the bigger ones tried to do something like this. I think Tinder Social was out for a little bit, but it didn't have the same type of traction, I guess because it's not really their personality. So unlike the other dating apps, like, we're strictly double dating. It's our whole personality.
It's our whole brand.
The whole vibe is you and your friends.
And I think it's also super authentic that is the brand, because the two co-founders are two best friends. So that's kind of where it comes from. That's the foundation, is friendship.
Yeah, so you guys wanted to go double dating, before this app even started. Like, that's where the idea came from. You wanted to double date yourselves, like, with each other, and meet guys that way, right?
Exactly. Yes. So what we did was we created a shared dating profile. There was a dating app that both of us were very familiar with. It's a big, common dating app, well-known dating app. And we decided that we would just combine profiles. And so I changed my profile to one that featured both Julie and myself, and put pictures of the two of us and wrote swipe right if you and your awesome friend want to double date me and my awesome friend. And then it was just such a success. We had so many guys messaging and saying that they were interested, guys asking us out on double dates, guys asking for other things also that we had to steer clear from, but we definitely got a really positive response. And that's when we kind of started just thinking about how interesting it would be to have an app, but not actually pulling the trigger yet because we both are healthcare professionals, so that didn't seem feasible. But that's when we kind of, the wheels started turning, like, wow, this is a pretty solid idea, and like, here's the proof of concept, here are all these people who like it.
I guess you didn't know that at the time, but you were in a way testing the market, and you were testing in probably the best way possible. You were testing it with existing or cheap tech, which is, I guess Tinder or Bumble or whatever you're using. Like, you're not paying for that, and your customers or your target audience are the people that are matching you. So it's like you validated the market really well, and I guess you've gathered data from the people that have matched you, and I guess you've spoken to them and said, I guess they were interested. So I guess for you, it's like validation immediately.
Yeah, exactly. We say that we were beta testing. We were we were going on double dates with guys, and they were literally telling us, you girls should make this an app. Like, this is so fun. And even now people message us and say that all the apps are kind of stale and they're ready for something fresh. So they love that we're bringing something new to the dating scene.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you must have got some, Danielle, you alluded to earlier, but you must have got some absolutely dodgy messages from that.
What's funny also is that we had a launch party in New York City, and we sold tickets. Well, I mean, it was free to come to the launch party, but we put tickets on a website, Eventbrite. I'm not sure if you use it in the UK, but people who bought the tickets definitely thought that they were buying tickets to like one giant orgy, because when we showed up at our own party, there were a lot of dodgy people there. And I mean, there was also a very large community of singles looking to double date, but there were people who definitely were confused by the name. So now we kind of understand that the name alone can connote something other than what we want it to. So now we kind of lead with, we're a double dating app called Fourplay, rather than Fourplay is a double dating app.
Well, we are Fourplay instead. Yeah.
Exactly.
You launched, so that was the launch party. So I guess going a bit before that, so I guess you're going on these double dates with these guys, and they were kind of really pushing you to develop this app. But you guys are healthcare professionals. Like, I want to talk about this for a bit, because I guess it's a fun idea doing this like double dating thing on an existing dating app. But it's like, how did you, I guess, all these guys pushing you, but what actually like clicked for you to take that step of actually, okay, we're going to build this app?
Yeah, so it definitely took a lot of pushing to get Danielle on board. She was not trying to do this. Basically, my family thought that we should make it into an app. They kept saying, my brother kept saying, you need to make this an app before somebody else does. And I kept saying, Danielle, like, maybe we should make this an app. And she kept being like, okay, like, I'm not interested in being in your family group chats. Like, you guys are so like,
you guys are blowing up my phone with these chats. Leave me alone.
Yeah. So she was like, I can't be in another like Griggs family group chat. You guys are outrageous. So I came home one day and I was like, my brother, like, he got it. We're going to call it Fourplay. And Danielle was like, I'm in.
Just from the name. That's
Just
actually,
from
to
the
be fair,
name.
why you're on the podcast. So, I mean, it makes sense.
That's all we needed to tell her, was that it was going to be called Fourplay.
I wanted to be associated with an app called Fourplay.
So, I mean, in terms of actually like turning it into a business, it was an experience for us, because we had zero experience in the tech industry and in startups. Luckily, our families were both super, super supportive, and our siblings stepped up to help. Danielle's sister and my brother both used their experience in the tech startup world and in marketing and brand consulting, that they were able to guide us. And it's actually pretty amazing when we look back on it now, like where we were versus where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
When we were having phone calls with developers, we were having to hang up and then Google the words that they're like, so what copy do you want?
We were like, what's copy?
What is copy?
If you work in healthcare, you've never heard the word copy before.
So we've definitely learned a lot. It's been quite the learning curve.
It's just text, isn't it? Just coffee.
Exactly.
But I mean, it's just the lingo that you don't pick up in any other industry,
Right.
because it's just, I guess it's just very different. But it's the same thing if like, I guess people came into healthcare, you'd say things that they wouldn't understand. So it's like, yeah, it's just a language.
Right, exactly. Like if someone was like, eructation, it's like, what does that mean? But it's a hiccup.
Right. And what's funny is like I do see my patients do things like that where like they learn a new word and now like they're calling it by the nickname and like think it's like they're just using it in every other sentence. Like I have patients who call their obstetricians like, oh, my OB, my OB, my OB. And it's like, did you know what an OB was like before you decided to get pregnant? And I feel like it's the same for us. We started like we learned the word brand. And then it was like, brand this, brand that. That's off brand. Let's make a brand document.
Are you two still in healthcare?
Yeah, we are. So we transitioned to be part-time healthcare providers so that we could work on Fourplay full-time. Total transparency, we never planned to do that. Like we were like, we're going to just do healthcare. We're going to do this on the side. We're going to make it happen. And people said it was going to be really difficult. And we proved them wrong for a while. I was able to work, full-time as a primary care healthcare provider, but we just hit a point now, which is a good place to be at, where the company is growing and it is becoming more day-to-day activities and needing to stay on top of data. And
it's not a weekend job.
It's not a weekend job, and which is really exciting, but it's also overwhelming because we're like, oh, are we actually about to go part-time as healthcare providers? Like we worked so hard to get into the healthcare field, but we do both. We're bootstrapping. We're completely self-funded. So we are still working so that we can afford to do Fourplay.
I guess, we talked about it before, your backgrounds aren't in this. And it's like, I guess you leveraged very heavily, like, I guess your family and their experience. But it's, I guess, what were the biggest sort of like lessons that you learned that led to all that growth? Like, because growth doesn't just come from like a good idea. It depends on like how well you execute it with, good marketing or, good customer experience and stuff like that. So what do you attribute to that growth?
I love that question. That is such an important question that I don't think a lot of people have asked us. I think something that we are pretty good at is taking risks and being like, we should just try it. Like
responsible risks.
Responsible risks. Yeah. I think that which kind of is an oxymoron, but I think it really does make sense. Like I think we know that we don't know anything, and we know that the only way we're going to learn is by trial and error. So rather than like not challenging ourselves and not growing, we've said, let's try this. It might be a flop, but it's going to teach us a big lesson. Like we're going to understand so much more after trying this. So we've tried a lot on for size, and even within the company, the roles that we play, it was like first we were kind of delegating to like our brothers and sisters, and then we were like, okay, let's just try to keep it in the company. Okay, that's not working. There have been a lot of changes that we've just continued to keep trying something else, and finding where our strong spots are.
Yeah, I think also something that really helped us and helps us on a daily basis is how generous everyone in the startup world is.
Yes.
I think they like when people have had their own startup, they know the struggle of trying to be an entrepreneur and being an entrepreneur. So anyone that offers us, free advice or a free phone call or anything, like we take it, even if we don't necessarily agree with what they tell us. It was still an opportunity for us to learn from someone who's been where we are. So I think that's been super helpful. And also people just being like, I have a great person to connect you to it's really incredible how many generous, good, gracious people there are in the world. So that's really been awesome. And then just going off of what Danielle said, I think a big thing for us has been understanding and acknowledging what each of our own strengths are, because we're each skilled in different areas of the company, and we stopped both trying to be control freaks and let it be that we can each kind of manage our own area of quote unquote expertise. We know where we each excel, and we allow each other to fulfill those roles.
Yeah, that's a really cool answer. I really like your point about, the collaboration with like different startup founders or the people in entrepreneurship, because I think that's something that doesn't really get a spotlight, where how sort of supportive the environment is. Like, people are willing to give the time. I think that the first obstacle you have to get across, you have to get over, is that you have to be willing to actually take feedback and take advice and stuff like that, where people are very reluctant on sharing certain ideas. I guess with your one, people, someone in your shoes might have been very reluctant of sharing that idea in case they directly copy it, or like being too much of a control freak, they just don't want to listen to anything. So I think that's the first hurdle. But you're definitely right. The culture and the environment is so supportive. People are willing to give their time, for sure.
Absolutely.
We used to be
so nervous.
Yeah, we would be so paranoid about telling anyone our idea. When people would offer calls, we would be like,
NDA.
Yeah, we were like, should we make them sign an NDA? And someone that I was in my graduate program with, he is an entrepreneur and had sold multiple companies, and then went back to school in his late 40s to become a physician assistant. But he was like, it's not the startup culture. No one is going to try to steal your idea. Like, that's not what we're about. We're all about like collaborating and helping each other. And it's true. Everyone has been like super nice and generous.
I guess I want to focus on like one or two things, I guess, that you've learned through that process and through, I guess, the collaboration. Because going back to the question of what attributed to that growth that led you to actually, I guess, go part-time on your healthcare jobs, jobs that you've worked so hard to actually get into. So I guess, what are those like one or two things?
Like the one or two things of like the pieces of advice, or
Yeah,
like how other,
or like the things that you've seen that have led to more growth. That could be like, I guess, changing branding, or I don't know, it could be anything.
That's a great question. What do you think?
I think that our brand has evolved greatly, and we have a better sense of identity. I think we got really good advice about making a customer profile and learning who our user was. We were asked by somebody like, who's your user? And we were like, it's somebody in Manhattan who's like single. And they were like, no. They were like, no, your answer should be, it's this person who has either never been in a relationship or has been in a serious relationship or was just out of a serious relationship, lives alone, lives with friends, is college educated, is not college educated. Like, you need to answer all these questions. And then we had this moment where we were like, wow, like, we don't even know who our user is. Like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And then we started interviewing our users and building this customer profile, and now we know. And I think that once we knew, it changed everything for us. It changed how we were advertising, how we were marketing ourselves, where we were doing it, how much we wanted to spend, how much each user costs us, how much we should be spending on users. It took everything and turned it from abstract to concrete.
Mm-hmm. That same person that gave us that advice, he said, and his name is Brian Scortato. He's amazing, and he many years ago developed a dating app. So that's why someone connected us with him. And he said, when you get off the phone with a customer, write down exactly what the copy would be for the ad that you would say to speak to that person. Like, write that down right away. And that was just so incredibly helpful for us. Like, now feeling as though when we write things, we're like envisioning the person who we're saying it to.
Yeah, I think also something that's really important. We spoke about this on the previous 2 episodes ago. We talked about customer profiles important, but you talked about stuff like quantitative data. So stuff like, are they in a relationship? Like, yes or no? Who, like, how many people do they live with? Age range and stuff like that. But it's another angle that I guess gets overlooked sometimes is the actual persona of that person. So what actually motivates them? Like, what do they value as a person? Do they value fun? Do they value intimacy? Like, what sort of things drives them as an individual? And I guess from you actually speaking to those people and I guess asking more qualitative features, you understood that person, way better than you would if you were just like, okay, 20 to 25 female in Manhattan. Like, you'd understand them much more on a personal level.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Another mentor an unofficial mentor that we met, she gave us the example about Nike, right? Is it Nike? Nike.
That was Allie.
That has
my sister.
That has the. I thought it was Celine that told us about that. That Nike has, in their office, I guess they used to before work from home, the 13-year-old boy's bedroom, and that's like their inspiration in the office, right? Because that's their customer.
Like they have this customer's bedroom on display at the Nike headquarters, which is wild.
Yeah, that's mad. I didn't know that.
I think also like something that was interesting for us to see is our users value friendship. They value friendship, I think, before romance. Like I think that like they're obviously looking for something romantic because they're dating, and inherent in dating is looking for romance, but I think the part that evolved for us was that the app has become less about finding love and more about enjoying being single with your friends.
But that's only an insight you would have picked up because like you spoke to people. That's what I mean when you talk about customer personas, because I guess that's where your customers and the people that use your app are different from the traditional sort of dating apps, where I guess what motivates them is probably very different to the sort of people that come onto your app, and what motivates them as well. So you must have found that as well.
We have moments where we get nervous. I think anyone would, about one of the bigger dating apps trying to steal this idea and do it on their own, but it's not their brand. Like,
Yeah.
we joke like Hinges. I don't know if Hinge is popular in the UK, but it's very popular here.
Yeah, well, I think so. I never used it, but I think so. My friends use it.
Yeah, and like their tagline is designed to be deleted, which means that it's for people who are looking for something serious and want to get off the apps and delete it. So would it make sense for Hinge to then create this fun
Our
double?
app is
Our app is like,
not designed to be deleted.
no, it's dating just got 2 times better.
Right. It's like this app is designed to be used over and over and over and over again.
Like we're making
enjoy yourself.
dating awesome. So have fun with your friend.
But even if I guess you're in a couple, you can still use the app, right?
Yeah.
Is that also built into your, like, I guess, customer experience?
We don't advertise it as much because it feels like it's not on brand, to be honest. Like we are trying to really target that profile of a user that we have identified, but there are certainly people on the app who are couples seeking friendship with other couples. There are people who are like a man and a woman who are both like straight and cisgender and are seeking the same thing. Like they're going out as friends and want to meet other friends. So there's all kinds of couples. I think in the UK there's less of that. I think the couples are more in the US. And then in the UK it's really just like single people on teams wanting to double date.
It was great talking to Julie and Danielle about how, the journey of them creating this dating app, just from being, they were healthcare professionals themselves before. So it's really cool that they've come from that to actually building an app built around something that they've faced themselves, that they really wanted to see in the market. So what I wanted to move to next, and what I wanted to find out was, while they've gone from healthcare professionals and, taking that as now part-time, what does their day-to-day look like in Fourplay?
Our day-to-day is a lot of foreplay.
It's also super unconventional because we're best friends. So our work environment is often like cuddling up on the couch, both with our laptops, like while the TV is on. But we pretty much spend most of our days at either one of our apartments, working from the moment we wake up until probably like 6 or 7 p.m. And then we both work in our healthcare roles 2 days a week. Sorry about that. Should I say that again? I don't know if you heard. We both work in our healthcare roles 2 days a week still.
A lot of our day-to-day has shifted to the full focus being user acquisition. So in the beginning, it was a lot of building the app and beta testing the app and making sure that it was working properly and like trying to find things to make the app better. And then we realized that we're going to always want to make the app better. We're definitely beyond an MVP. The app is like a pretty amazing app. It functions nicely. We get a lot of compliments on the user experience, but we stopped putting so much emphasis on the app in terms of like trying to fix it on a daily basis. And more of our energy now has gone to the people that we're trying to get onto the app, because the greatest dating app won't exist if no one is on there to use it. So we learned a lot from our early mistakes when we didn't know as much. Originally, we opened up the app to be everywhere
In the
in the
world.
world. So that was like, not the most strategic move, but we didn't understand how dating apps were only opening one city at a time until we asked someone who founded a dating app and they told us. So we learned a lot from our mistakes early on. We time manage way better now. We schedule blocks of time to work on specific tasks. That's definitely really helpful. Anybody who's like thinking about doing a startup or taking on a big project, I think blocking out time is a really big thing. And we sit and just burn through as many brain cells as possible, trying to think of the most creative and low cost ways of finding new users for the app.
But I guess starting out, yeah, that mistake of like opening up the app to literally everyone on the planet, it's difficult as well. I mean, it kind of adds to the difficulty because you are building something that's two-sided. You need basically double the amount of people to get people on, if that makes sense. Like one person won't come on if another person's not there. So I guess you need to, and that it doesn't just go for dating apps, it goes for any sort of two-sided market that anyone's like thinking about building, because you need to kind of get that original sort of audience there to attract more audience. So I guess the question I want to ask is like, how was the growth like during the beginning? But I guess now it's like more exponential because you are growing that two-sided market.
You're exactly right. The growth is now exponential. Like before, I think initially it was like a roller coaster for us. Initially, there was this boom of excitement because we were like, look at us. We have users in Australia. Oh my God, we're in Vietnam. But it's like that's not doing anything for us. So then it was a low of like, we have all of these users everywhere and we have no users using the app because they can't. So, and then when we really discovered, like we said, let's take the cities that have grown the most organically. And at that point, it was London and New York City, which is really no surprise. But for some reason, we just had not expected that a city outside of our country would be one of our main cities. Like we never thought that we could grow in London, but we decided to close off everywhere except London and New York City, and the app really continued to grow without even putting money into formal advertising. And then we actually began like running some inexpensive Facebook ads and Instagram ads, Google, and now we're hiring brand ambassadors. So hopefully we'll continue to grow in those cities, which is happening so much faster now. And hopefully the wait lists grow in other places. And then we can open up and in those places and know that there will be several people on the app already.
That's not unusual, by the way. Like actually finding an audience where your immediate geographical location isn't based. Like for people like I guess that don't know, like Waze GPS app, like it's an Israeli company, but they found their users not so much in Israel as much, but more in Brazil. I've read the story. It's like that's where they got most of their users from. They didn't know why at first, but then it's like an explanation of like the way their roads are and I guess stuff around that. But it just shows like maybe your app isn't where like maybe your product or your app or whatever isn't like specific to or like tailored for that city that you actually physically live in. Like it could be it could be better suited for London, like if anything. I'm not saying it, I don't know if it is, but like as an example.
Right. And I think it's scary because you when it's another country, like it doesn't feel in your control. It feels to me at least, it feels like I get nervous that there's like some cultural nuances that we don't understand. And what if we're not doing something right there? What if we're being politically incorrect? Like what if like I feel that I can't control their perception in the UK over our app, but as time has gone on, we've realized that like they do like the product that we're putting out. So now we just feel as though this it must be like a cultural norm, double dating in the UK. And so we keep, pushing it forward.
Yeah, I would even say that just based on like the analytics that I do when I look at the teams, I feel like I feel like I should move to London because I feel like their personalities are so aligned with my personality. I'm like, wow, this person's hilarious, and I would love to like date them or be their Fourplay teammate.
Like now we like British guys better than we like American guys.
And girls, the girls are hilarious also.
Yeah, we're pretty great. I don't know if we should finish it there because I quite like that note. Or yeah, we'll finish it there. I quite like that. Yeah, we'll end on a high. Danielle and Julie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was such a pleasure having you on. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
It was a lot of fun.
How can people find, stay in touch with you, stay in touch with Fourplay, go into the future?
Thank you, Sina. Thanks for having us on too. We'd really like to have people visit our website, fourplaysocial.com, or go on our Instagram at fourplaysocial. And then we also would love user feedback. So if anybody gets on the app and wants to give user feedback, definitely email us at fourplaysocial. At Danielle at fourplaysocial.com, and we'll send a survey.
And of course, we're available on the iOS and Google Play stores. So feel free to download.
So get swiping.
All right, cool. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Millennial Entrepreneur, and thank you so much for staying to the very end of the episode. It really means a lot. If you did enjoy, please be sure to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts like Annie did at the beginning of the episode, and I'll be sure to give you a shout out in the beginning of the next episode. And if you enjoyed it, please be sure to follow us on Instagram. That's where the new episodes get announced, along with all the audio previews, all of that good stuff. So be sure to not miss an episode. Subscribe if you're on Apple Podcasts. And yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. See you in the next episode.